Welcome back to Cyberspace. I'm your host, Leslie Poston. This week, we're talking about why your shampoo might be smarter than your to-do list. We all know the feeling. You're staring at your screen, completely stuck. Hours go by, nothing. Then suddenly, while shampooing your hair or unloading the dishwasher, the solution pops into your head like it was waiting for you the whole time. That burst of clarity, that moment of, oh, that's it, is more than just a quirky human experience. It's a window into how insight works. There's a reason we call them shower thoughts. It's a real thing. You're doing something automatic. Rinsing, scrubbing, walking or driving. Your body is engaged, but your mind is drifting, and suddenly, there it is. The perfect idea. A creative breakthrough, or the exact right words for that thing you were trying to say to someone earlier. These moments can feel magical, but they aren't random. They're your brain working differently in a specific mode that fosters creativity and problem solving. This episode is about the moments when your brain surprises you with brilliance, usually when you least expect it. We're diving deep into what that insight is, how your brain generates it, and what it has to do with daydreaming, dopamine distractions, and yes, the shower. We'll also talk about how modern life is kind of killing off these moments and how we can bring them back. Psychologists define insight as a sudden, novel understanding or solution that seems to appear out of nowhere. It's a cognitive event where your brain restructures a problem or concept in a new way. Insight is different from analytical thinking, which is both linear and conscious. With analytical problem solving, you methodically work through steps, building toward a solution piece by piece. You can usually explain your reasoning as you go. Insight, by contrast, arrives in a flash. It feels automatic, emotional, and often even physical. One moment you're stuck, and the next moment the answer is simply there, fully formed and obviously correct. Researchers have studied insight using tasks like the Remote Associates test, where participants link seemingly unrelated words like pine, crab, and sauce, and are asked to find a fourth word that connects them all. The answer, apple, creates that satisfying click of recognition when it hits you. If you've played games like the New York Times Connections game, this might feel familiar as they gamified similar concepts to create it. Using EEGs and fMRIs, those same researchers found that just before people have an insight, their brain shifts into a specific pattern. It's like the brain quiets down in one area and lights up in others. It happens fast and it feels final. What makes these moments so distinctive is their emotional signature. That aha feeling isn't just psychological decoration, it's actually your brain's way of marking important cognitive breakthroughs, flagging solutions that feel both novel or new and correct. But here's the key. Insight doesn't just show up because you tried harder. It shows up when you stop trying so hard. When you're resting, not focused on any task and just letting your thoughts drift, a group of brain regions called the default mode network kicks in. The DMN, as it's called, is responsible for internal thought, daydreaming, imagining the future, reviewing old memories, and even talking to yourself in your head. For decades, neuroscientists focused on what the brain does when it's actively engaged in tasks. But researchers started noticing something curious. When people weren't doing anything in particular, when their minds were allowed to wander, this specific network of brain regions would light up intensely. The DMN is a connector. It helps different pieces of information recombine in creative ways. When you're not focused on solving a problem, the DMN quietly works in the background. It's linking new ideas to old memories. It's blending fragments of experiences and building new mental models. This network includes regions that specialize in what researchers call mental time travel, remembering, planning, making connections between ideas that might never have met in a more focused state of mind. And this is why your best ideas arrive during periods of rest. Your brain isn't idle, it's working on your behalf in a more diffuse, playful way. Studies have shown that during periods of mind wandering, the DMN is highly active, and this isn't zoning out, it's insight incubation. In another study, neuroimaging work with highly creative individuals found that their brains showed particularly strong DMN activity during creative tasks. When writers, artists, and inventors were asked to come up with original ideas, their default networks were firing intensely. The shower, as it turns out, is the perfect DMN activator. You're engaged in a simple routine activity that doesn't demand much conscious attention. Your mind is free to wander, to make those loose associations and unexpected connections that are the hallmark of creative insight. When you hit a mental wall and then take a break, your brain doesn't stop working on the problem, it just changes how it's doing the work. This process is called incubation. It's the reason stepping away from a tough problem usually helps to solve it. The concept goes back to Graham Wallace's 1926 model of creativity, but what seemed like folk wisdom a century ago now has solid experimental backing. New research consistently shows that even short periods of rest or engaging in a low-demand task like folding laundry can improve problem solving. Even brief periods of incubation, sometimes just a few minutes, can lead to significant improvements in creative thinking. This is something that meditation is good for as well. During incubation, your brain continues sorting through possibilities, but without the pressure or narrow focus that blocks insight. Your conscious mind stops trying to force a solution, but your unconscious mind keeps working. It's sifting through memories, exploring unusual associations, testing potential connections without the constraints of deliberate, logical thought. And here's what's important. It wasn't just any break that helped in these studies. It specifically was breaks that allowed the mind to wander. Participants who did demanding tasks during their breaks showed no incubation benefit, but those who did simple, boring tasks that allowed their minds to drift showed significant improvements in creative problem solving. Insight often requires not just new information, but a relaxed mental environment where that information can be restructured. Incubation makes space for that. When a promising solution emerges from this unconscious processing, it bubbles up into consciousness as that sudden aha moment. This means that walking away from a problem is not giving up. It's a sophisticated cognitive strategy. In fact, research consistently shows that people are 33% more likely to solve insight problems after REM sleep when the brain actively consolidates creative connections. The phrase sleep on it has literal neuroscientific backing. One reason insight likes the shower? Dopamine. That feel-good chemical is linked to cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to make unusual connections. Warm showers, walks in nature, quiet rituals, they all raise dopamine levels in gentle ways. When you're in a warm shower, several things happen simultaneously. The hot water is mildly pleasurable, which causes a gentle release of dopamine. You're engaged in a familiar, automatic routine that doesn't require too much cognitive effort. You're temporarily isolated from external demands and distractions, and you're in a relaxed, low-stress state. This combination is neurochemically perfect for insight. Dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it enhances cognitive flexibility, which is critical for the kind of broad, associative thinking that leads to creative breakthroughs. Martindale and others have shown that when dopamine is flowing, people are more likely to engage in associative thinking. That's when your ideas bounce around more freely, leading to unexpected combinations. Stress, on the other hand, restricts this. When you're anxious or under pressure, your thinking narrows. Insight needs room to move. A relaxed state allows your brain to scan widely and pull together distant concepts. And that's the magic mix, a mind at ease with a little dopamine boost. There's also something important about the level of arousal during these moments. You're alert enough to think, but not so stimulated that your attention becomes narrowly focused. This moderate level of arousal seems to be optimal for what psychologists call defocused attention, a state where your mind can make loose, unusual connections between ideas. The shower also provides what researchers call soft fascination, gentle sensory input that's interesting enough to be pleasant, but not demanding enough to capture your full attention. The sound of water, the warmth, the simple physical motions all create a kind of meditative state that's conducive to insight. Neuroscientists have found that just before those insight moments, people show increased alpha wave activity, the same relaxed brainwave state associated with meditation and, yes, that blissful shower feeling. Have you ever walked away from a difficult conversation only to come up with the perfect reply or come back 10 minutes or 3 hours later, or even in the shower the next day? That is not a character flaw, it is a cognitive pattern. Stressful interactions activate your fight or flight system. Your body floods with cortisol. Your mind narrows to survival mode. The parts of your brain that handle complex thought get a little quiet. You're not dumb in the moment, you're focused on staying safe or getting through it. During that heated conversation, your nervous system is in a state of mild activation. Your attention becomes narrowly focused on the immediate perceived threat, defending your position, processing what the other person is saying, monitoring their emotional state as well as your own. This narrow focus is actually adaptive in high-pressure social situations, helping you to navigate the immediate interaction. But this same narrowing of attention also constrains your access to the broader network of associations and memories that could generate that perfect witty response. And then later, when you're relaxed, your DMN can revisit the moment and remix it. Your insight system gets another pass. That's why the sharpest, most articulate version of you shows up a little too late. Your brain just needed time to feel safe and process. Once the pressure is off and your nervous system has returned to baseline, your brain begins to simulate the conversation that just occurred. In this relaxed state, with your cognitive resources freed up, your brain can access a much wider range of memories, knowledge, and creative connections, and it can take the time to craft a perfect response, weighing different options, finding just the right tone and phrasing. Your brain is not being slow or inefficient when it generates the perfect comeback after the fact. During the actual conversation, it was doing exactly what it needed to do, helping you navigate a complex social situation in real time. Here's where modern life gets in the way. All of this, DMN activity, incubation, associative thinking, requires mental breathing room. But we fill every moment with distraction. Phones in the bathroom, podcasts on our walk, scrolling between tasks, open concept offices, no time between meetings, filling our every day, our every moment of every day with something to do. Think about your typical day. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be truly bored? When did you last find yourself with nothing specific to think about? No immediate task demanding your attention, no screen calling for your engagement. For many, these moments have almost completely disappeared. We check our phones while we wait for the elevator. We listen to music or podcasts while walking the dog, missing opportunities to talk to our neighbors or just think. We scroll through social media during what used to be our quiet moments. Even in the bathroom, once a guaranteed sanctuary for unstructured thought, many of us are now bringing our phones. Research shows that fragmented attention and constant input reduce creative output and limit spontaneous thought. When we eliminate boredom, we eliminate insight. This constant stimulation isn't just changing how we spend our time, it's changing how our brains work. Studies suggest that our capacity for sustained focus is being systematically undermined by digital environments designed to capture and fragment our attention. When your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions, your brain never gets the chance to settle into those deeper states of processing that generate creative breakthroughs. There's also emerging research suggesting that constant digital stimulation might be interfering with the default mode network itself. When you're always consuming information, always responding to external stimuli, the brain regions involved in internal thought and reflection get less practice. If we want those genius shower thoughts back, we're going to have to reclaim our idle time. We need more quiet gaps, more unfocused moments, more permission to not be productive every second. I'm going to challenge you to spend some time each week being bored on purpose. So, how do we make space for more insight? Start by building in low stimulation time. Take device-free walks. Let yourself stare out the window. Shower without a podcast, as much as I want you to listen to this one. Give your brain quiet rituals. And going back to me telling you to be bored on purpose, truly embrace boredom. This might be the most important advice I can give you. In a culture that treats boredom as a problem to be solved immediately, learning to sit with unstimulated mental space becomes a radical act. Try this. Next time you're waiting somewhere, resist the urge to pull out your phone. Let your mind wander, and notice what thoughts arise when you're not feeding your brain constant input. Try journaling, doodling, or daydreaming. Let your thoughts wander without trying to pin them down. Insight likes a gentle nudge, not a command. Build regular, unstructured time into your routine. This could be that daily walk without podcast or music, or time spent in your garden this summer, or maybe do your dishes without any background entertainment, or just sit quietly somewhere in your house or outside with a cup of coffee in the morning. And don't read, don't listen to anything, don't talk. Create rituals around problems you're trying to solve. When you're stuck on something important, try spending focused time thinking about the problem, gathering relevant information, and exploring obvious solutions, and then deliberately step away. Go take that shower, go for a walk, or do something completely unrelated. Give your unconscious mind permission to take over. Protect your boredom like you protect your calendar. We talked about protecting our calendar in our episode on why meetings suck, but it applies here too. Your best ideas often come when you're not trying to think at all, when your mind is allowed to roam, when you're rinsing shampoo and suddenly there it is. Pay attention to your personal insight patterns. Like some people get their best ideas while exercising on the treadmill, others while doing repetitive tasks like folding laundry, and still others during that transition period between sleep and wakefulness. Notice when and where you have your own aha moments, and try to create more opportunities for those conditions. Your brain is much smarter than you give it credit for. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing at all. These moments of apparent inactivity are actually some of the most productive thinking time you can invest, a significant difference in your capacity for insight. Engage in activities that naturally promote the kind of relaxed associative thinking that leads to creative breakthroughs. This might include spending time in nature or engaging in creative hobbies, practicing meditation and mindfulness, or, again, taking those long, aimless walks. But most importantly, trust your process. When you step away from a problem, you're not giving up. You're engaging a different kind of intelligence. Your brain is continuing to work on the problem in ways that conscious effort simply cannot match. Those moments of apparent inactivity are actually some of the most productive thinking time you can invest. And remember, insights can't be forced, but they can be invited. By creating the right conditions, the mental space, the relaxed attention, the freedom from constant stimulation, you're rolling out the welcome mat for your brain's most creative capacities. Your next great idea might just be a shower away. So there you have it. The science behind why your best ideas arrive when you're shampooing your hair instead of sitting at your desk, frantically trying to think of something brilliant. Insight isn't magic, it's your brain doing sophisticated background processing when you give it the space and conditions it needs to work. So the next time someone tells you that you're just procrastinating by taking a walk or stepping away from a problem, you can tell them that you're actually engaging in a scientifically validated cognitive strategy. You're activating your default mode network, creating conditions for incubation, and giving your unconscious mind the opportunity to make these creative connections that conscious effort often can't achieve. In our hyper-connected world, protecting time for insight might be one of the most important things you can do for your creative and intellectual life. Your brain is quietly brilliant, but only when you give it room to breathe. So here's a question to take with you. When was your last shower thought that genuinely surprised you? And more importantly, what are you going to do this week to create more space for those moments of unexpected brilliance? Thanks for listening to Cyberspace. I'm your host, Leslie Poston, signing off. As always, and until next time, stay curious and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a week. And if you find these podcasts helpful, share it with your friends. Thanks for listening.